Hello everyone, welcome to the class. So we already covered how to write a program to get the socket. So today, let's give you an example. We briefly check the example, read this line by line in the example to show you how to actually use it in your source code. Okay, so let's start with the client socket program example. So inside this program, this is for client. So inside the main function, we try to get some arguments, and these arguments provide some information about what the server we want to connect. And this example is just connect to an echo server. The client try to send information to a server, and the server will respond to the same information back to a client. Okay, so in this case, we have arguments, and of course, we defined the file descriptor, uh, file descriptor for a socket. We need the file descriptor for create a socket. Socket is a file, right? They also provide the port number because the port number is important information. If you want to connect to the server, you need to tell what's the number for the port number you can connect to the particular process in the server, right? So that's a couple stuff. And of course, we have a buffers to deal with the message and so on. And here we try to change the host value and the port numbers value because we want to get the IP address. So we want to get the IP address for the host number for the host one. Then we want to get the port number as the second one. So we got these two information, the IP address and the port number. Then we use these two information, try to get the connection. So here we implement a new function. This function will open a socket and use the information we provide the IP address and port number and try to connect to a server. Okay, so let's look at how we deal with this. And this is the key for this program. Okay, so let's look at the function. So this is the function we have, and this function also provides this client FD, the file descriptor. The file descriptor you need to support the socket. So for a socket, you got this file descriptor. So you can see if we look at the socket here, we use this file descriptor to get the socket, and the socket, we use the IPv4, this IP address. And this is, we use IP protocol. 0 means IP protocol here. And we use IPv4 as a format. And this one is TCP. This is TCP transport protocol. Then we create a socket and we assign to this file descriptor. Then we try to use the host name and we try to use the host and the port number. We try to use the information to get the server. So because the host name is a character, is a value. So it's something it's not IP address. We need to get the IP address. So we use a get host by name. We use get host by name to get the information of, for example, IP address. So in this case, we store the data into HP. This is very special structures, and the special structures contain the information we need. So if you look at the HP here, you will see there's a HP stuff here, which is the address. We got the first address for this host name, for this domain name. We got the first address. So we try to use this to try to get the information about the IP address. And for the second one, we use a port number. So we use a port number here to convert it into a special structure. So what's the structure here? So actually, this is a special structure we have. We try to give the structure what's the format for this IP address. And we know the IP address format is IPv4. So we give this information. Then we try to get the information from the special structure we got from the DNS, domain name service. We try to put the value, the data, and we copy to this structure's address. So we provide the address, we provide the family, and right now we provide the port number. So we use these three lines to create the special structures. The structures is here. The structure is here. And the structures should include the family, the port number, the address. Okay, then you can use this to connect to the server. So after we create a socket, after we do this preparation, and right now we just pass this structure to your connect. So the first one is the socket file descriptor, and second one is the information you need to connect for to the server. So in this case, you make a connection. Okay. So the key idea is here. You open a socket, then you connect it. And everything between these two lines is trying to prepare information for the server for you to connect. Okay, so after you connect, there's a while loop here, and this while loop actually you can see it's just like a do some communication. I try to send the data to the server, then I receive the data from the server. Then after I receive a server, I try to process the buffer, try to make it a string, then I can print out some message. And I just keep doing it. Okay, so at the end, don't forget you need to close the socket. You need to close the socket. So this is the good logic of your client program. Client program open, connect, do some read and write communication, then close the file descriptor. Then that's it. Okay, so this is the client. Client is a simple one. So right now we are going to talk about how to do the server part. Server part is a little bit more complicated. Okay, so let's do the server part. Okay, so now let's look at the server. So for server, you can see the code is longer. So why? Because you need to prepare more like information on the server. For server also, we defined like a couple like file descriptors and you can see actually there's a two different file descriptor. Why? Because remember when you accept a connection, you need to create a new file descriptor. Create a new file descriptor to deal with create a new socket to deal with the connection, right? So we have like a couple different file descriptor. One is for server, the second one is for the connection. Then we provide some port number. Then we also put the information of the client into this specific like address. So when we receive value, we will store the value, like store the information from our for our client into it. Then we have a client port, we have some information we need to do. So actually the idea for this one is we got the argument. So the argument one shows like which port number we want to attach this program. So when we write the server program, you need to tell your kernel which port number you want to use to support this program, right? So we will use argument one as a port number we want to get. Then because we got this port number, then we can use this port number, try to create a socket. So here, this is the something we can use for a socket, okay? So let's look at the function, how we prepare everything. So it's more complicated, okay? So let's look at the open listen. So for open listen, we got the port number, and we definitely need to define this address stuff. So again, we do the socket first. So this is the TCP IP protocol format. Is use IPv4 here. Okay. So then after you do the socket stuff, let's do some initialization. Let's say initialization here, and it's kind of like a check something. Then the next stuff you should like do some byte. So byte is very important part. You want to tell your server which port number, which IP address you want to attach this socket into it. So here, to support this one, you need to provide the information of your server address. How to get the server address? Very similar to previous one. We set up the family is AF IMET, which is IPv4. Then we got the IP address. This is the IP address for the server. So we try to get the IP address for the server from the local machine because the IP address, you know what's the IP address you are. So you try to use it, use the function code to get the IP address you have. Then you set up the port number. So actually this one gets your own IP address. This one, you set out a port number and you put this information, try to bind your socket into this particular address and particular port number, okay? Then you create listen. So listens here, you create the queue, like this is size of queue. And what's the size of queue here? If we look at, we created a 1024. So we allowed 1K different connection happened. Okay, so in this case, we got the queue here in our listen. So we create a queue, then we finish it. We return this socket. Why? Because right now we are ready. We are ready for listen. We are ready for accept the new connection. So let's go back to the main function. When we go back to the main function here, you can see we return the listener FD here. So for this listener FD, we can start to do our job. We use an infinite loop because the server never stop. It's try to keep receive the connection. So we use infinite loop, and here we just do some get the what's the what's the for how long this client edges this stuff. So it's for our accept. This is for the accept. Okay, so this is something we have. So accept will accept the file distributor, the socket we already prepare, and it will accept the data from your client. Your client will tell, okay, what's my address, what's my port number to the server. So it's trying to deal with this. Then it will return a new socket file distributor. The socket file distributor is used to deal with this particular connection. Okay, it's deal with this particular connection. So use this connect stuff to deal with the connection by accepting. So accept, create a new socket, and return this new socket file distributor to here. So in this case, start from this moment, you should communicate with the socket, not the original one. The original one, the socket is for server. So it's the server socket try to prepare a lot of stuff, try to use queue and so on. This new socket is for just for this communication. So when you accept, you got this new socket to deal with it. And after that, you can do this couple stuff here. So you can see we pass the socket address to the echo. And echo is the one we try to respond to our client. So if you look at what the echo it is, let's go back a little bit. You can see the echo will use this file distributor to do what? To do the receive and the send. It will receive the data from the client, then send back some message to the client. Okay, so it's try to get the information from the client, try to make the information uppercase, then send it back. This is the logic. So for the server, you can see after you do this preparation, the next step is try to use accept. The accept will accept the connection from the client and try to create new file distributor. Then you can use this file distributor to communicate to this particular client. Okay, so this is how you deal with this. And of course, there's a couple stuff here. You try to get the client's information. You just try to get some client information. That's it. And at the end, of course, you should close the client connection if the connection is finished. If it's the echo is finished, you should close it. Server is fine. Server because um, server will never stop. So we use a while loop here. So we don't need to close the server. We still want the server to receive more connection. But for this particular connection, for distributor, you should close it after you talk to this connection. Okay. So this is the very simple example how to write the server program by using these functions, these system calls. Okay, I hope you got the idea of it. This is for today. Today we just showed two example program, one for client, one for server. I hope you give you an idea how to actually follow the logic we cover in other videos to write your program. And remember, for a client, you should open socket, use a socket, then use a connect, then you can do some communication. And of course, you need to close it. But for server, it's more complicated. After you do the socket, you need to use bind, then you need to use listen, then you accept the connection. After you accept the connection, you got another file distributor, then you can use the new file distributor to communicate to the client. Then after you deal with this communication, after the communication is complete, then use close to close this particular socket file descriptor. Okay, so this is just one like a short videos show you an example how you write the program. I hope this is useful to you for your projects, for your like other stuff, for your future like class. Okay, so hope you enjoy today's video. See you next time. The socket programming is awesome.